Greetings, I'm Joel Jacobson, and today I want to talk to you about nuts and seeds, grains and legumes, and the benefits of soaking them. Let's begin with describing what happened 10,000 years ago. Prior to 10,000 years ago, we were hunter and gatherers, and when we were hunter and gatherers, we would have a tribal life, a partnership society. We would have the male would go out hunting while the female would be going out and foraging. Man can also forage, but the difference in physiology of men and women, they do the labor, they have a stronger upper body, while women, they have more of a body that's designed to carry children and educate children and sort of like do the finer work, bring in the love. While men bring in the courage, the confidence, and teach that to the children. And same can be with women. The idea is that when 10,000 years ago, when the agricultural revolution came, we experienced something similar to a de-evolution. Human beings began being enslaved by the land, having to look downwards and always plowing the land in order to rejuvenate this carbon cycle of deterioration of matter into soil, and then building from that soil something else that would nourish them. Instead of like what we used to have was like lots of trees with fruits, lots of tree nuts, and those were pretty much what we would forage for. We wouldn't tend vegetables. Vegetables were a lot of times very tedious to do so. Berries and apples and all kinds of different fruits were very much accessible to someone who forages. As a forager, you don't go looking for vegetables, you go looking for fruit and nuts. And so 10,000 years ago we had an agricultural revolution. People began making crops, growing crops, plowing the land, enslaving themselves to the land. And that happened until today. We still have that, and it's as big. We had 100 years ago a little deviation down into very much, maybe 150 years ago when we had the Industrial Revolution. We had a bunch of people just deciding, no, we don't need all these chemicals to sustain the soil and the plant. We can just use 4 particular elements which make the plant grow and like look good, and essentially does not make the plant taste as well, but it makes crops grow in the hundreds and thousands. And we kind of like deviated away from it, and now lately there's a lot more interest in organic farming, because organic farming or permaculture, permanent agriculture, permaculture, is a way for us to actually work with the cycles of the land and sort of work with the carbon cycle of like making a compost, taking your scraps, putting it inside a compost bin, and then allowing nature to decompose itself down to its dust form, down to its soil, and then you use that as a nutrient base for the soil, for another plant to nourish off. So what happened was that we deviated away from the wisdom of nuts and seeds. Now, one important law to learn about nuts, seeds, grains, and legumes is that all of them, some of them less, some of them more, and some of them even more, they have toxins in them. Why? Well, think of it as a seed of life would want to have protection mechanisms in place in order to ensure the survival of the next species, the next offspring. So these protective mechanisms in place within a nut or a seed is there to allow it not to be digested by pathogens, bacteria, yeasts, all kinds of different microorganisms. And if they are designed not to be consumed by bacteria, and we are made of bacteria, as we are not only covered by 10 times more bacteria than our own human cells, but that also our cells have bacteria inside of them, that means that we are bacterial in nature, and that means that those toxins are actually inhibiting not only the bacteria to consume them and digest them, but also multicellular organisms as we are. We are the multicellular bacteria from digesting this stuff. So when we understand that part, where there's protective mechanisms of not only toxins, but also digestive inhibitors, which what they do is they latch on to the nutrients like the iron, like the calcium, like the magnesium, and just hold on to it and make it unavailable to digestion. Okay? Unavailable from digestive enzymes to come and break apart those proteins, break apart those minerals into constituents. Because why? Why do we want those proteins broken down into amino acids, into their constituent amino acids? Because the gastrointestinal tract, when it gets to the small intestines, where the absorption is more important, we can't absorb something that has an interfering to our digestive enzymes. So they will just continue to our stool and we'll be secreting it outside. When did you not hear the common saying where, oh, I have corn in my stool? I don't eat no corn. You find that. You find that also with all kinds of other nuts that you don't grind properly in your teeth. Now, grinding it in your teeth helps break down initially those bonds. And then that's a gross digestion. Then when it goes into the small intestine, there's more of a fine digestion down to the amino acids. So the gut cannot absorb into the bloodstream those fine amino acids if they're not broken to a fine amino acid. So the wisdom of soaking nuts and seeds and grains and legumes and so on is the wisdom of sprouting. Why would we want to sprout? Now, because we said that all grains and all legumes and all nuts and seeds, they have protection mechanisms. We want to take those protective mechanisms, okay? Protection mode, where they are like closed, and when they're closed, they're kind of like wanting to fight off. I want to protect what's inside. I don't want anybody touching my shit, all my nutrients, while I save it for when I sprout. And then when I sprout, I can use all these nutrients to proliferate, to grow. And that's a sprouting. And so when we simulate by soaking, when we simulate a sprouting of a nut or seed by soaking, we allow these protection mechanisms to become growth mechanisms. And not only does it become hydrated, more water content inside the nut or the seed, but also all those toxins and digestive inhibitors are secreted into the water, and that could be discarded. And then what you are left with is nuts and seeds. Okay, we have here almond seeds, and we have here also, if you can see it, we also have walnuts. I also have Brazil nuts, but I ate them already. I love Brazil nuts. They have high amounts of selenium, and you don't want to eat more than 5 Brazil nuts. Selenium is very good. It chelates mercury from your body. In case you have mercury fillings inside your teeth, you want actually to, you would like to know that the fact is that if you have mercury fillings in your teeth, that mercury has a high affinity to selenium. And if you have a daily dosage of mercury coming into your body, then that mercury is attaching itself to selenium and depleting selenium in your body. And your selenium is needed not only for a major antioxidants inside your body called glutathione. There's 4 atoms of selenium in one molecule of glutathione, but also in your thyroid gland, it needs selenium in order to function properly, in order to convert the iodine into something more beneficial for its processes that the thyroid does. Well, when you consume soaked nuts, you are able to improve the bioavailability of these nuts and seeds, of the nutrients, and you have more water content, which is what I like. I like not only soaking nuts and seeds, but also soaking like hydrated apricots, all kinds of hydrated fruits, because look at our system, look at our micro environment here. We have cells that are 70% water, which is pretty much like we are 75, 70, 80% water. We are modeled by the micro. So the macro is the model of a micro. And that is an essential lesson to learn too. And so when you hydrate not only nuts and seeds, but also fruit, which is their form they're supposed to come in, they are more nourishing. They come with more water content in them. And they're more easily digested because the water, when your gut needs water in order to digest a certain thing, you know where it takes it from? It takes it from the body. It takes it from tissues surrounding. And you know what happens to those tissues? They become deficient in water. And so there's this whole cycle where when we engage with eating things from our environment, having a meal, it's to properly hydrate towards that meal, so you won't have to drink while you're eating the meal, because there's no point in drinking while you're eating the meal. You don't want to dilute your hydrochloric acid in your stomach. There's no wisdom in that. You want to drink a cup of water before, half an hour before you eat, and then about an hour and a half after you eat, but never in between. You don't want to drink while you eat. If you have the feeling of having to drink while you eat, that means that you have already been dehydrated from the beginning. And so all these are very much beneficial for you to start with on your diet towards maximizing your performance within any type of school that you would go to. Nutrition is a wisdom science. It employs all the wisdoms of physics, of chemistry, of biology, and it puts them together, and then you learn the psychology of your own organism, how it corresponds to each other, how you expose yourself to a certain substance and it reacts. And that is psychology type of environment. That's a science. Oh, well, like we react to everything around us all the time, but would our body control us and how we react to certain situations? Why, yes, that definitely happens. And when does it happen? When you wake up and you don't exercise, when your blood doesn't learn to flow and regenerate the whole environment. It happens when you consume a large meal before going to sleep, and then your digestion is like so overloaded, you can't sleep, and when you wake up, you're like, oh my god, my stomach is so fucking full still. What do? You stop eating late, you have breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, and dinner like a pauper, like a poor man. And when you do that, you actually you complement the cycle of your body, how what it needs throughout the day. I mean, the morning is when you wake up and you want to be like, yes, I'm awake, let's go and do something. So you want to bring up the best of nutrients and the best of hydration and nourishment to your body. So when you wake up, you're like, let's do it. I can operate now for another 5 hours without a problem until my next meal, or 3 hours, depending on how your diet consists of. Well, when you do consume a diet that follows a certain cycle that mimics the beneficial cycles of your body, you complement yourself. You allow yourself to feel better. You allow yourself to operate better. And whether you are doing any type of other exercise throughout your day, you might find it beneficial to complement your diet, your physiology with a good diet. Otherwise, there's like, when you go and do, I don't know, a workout somewhere and you ate a meal that doesn't give you enough energy or doesn't give you that margin of time for you to digest it because you haven't employed all these types of wisdoms from nutrition, you end up sort of like blocked from energy. You can't do energy practices, and energy is pretty much everything. Anything you do in life needs energy. Okay, anything you do, you get from the environment energy, and you give back to the environment energy. Okay, you wake up in the morning and you eat in order to give off. Okay, you eat energy in order to give off energy, and that is also wisdom of nutrition. Well, let me finish up here in saying that soaked nuts and seeds, very beneficial. I have 5 Brazil nuts a day, about a handful of almonds and a handful of walnuts, and I sometimes put other things inside. I mean, walnuts, they look like a brain, not for nothing. I mean, you can deduce whatever you want from that. And yeah, I love it. I hope you guys learned what you wanted to get from this. And yeah, follow me in wherever you go.